Mike, how you doing? How you doing?
Doing good yourself?
Oh, I'm doing great, I just got back from the gym, getting those gain wells. It was bad. I'm sorry, man.
That was
It
so
was
bad.
bad.
You could have said anything, but we probably lost all of our subs now. With that being said, let's hop into some background and production based stuff off Kenneth Gainwell. Mike, I know you had some concerns here just right off the bat. So, I mean, I can kind of guess what they are, but I'll let you take the floor here.
Yeah, the double freshman, the first, obviously that's a redshirt season. Not a whole lot going on there. So it's basically one season of production and then opt out. So you don't have a lot of film or really much to work off of. And that's obviously a concern. And it's kind of funny because we've done ETN and Najee where it's the exact opposite, you know, kind of conversation. Maybe there's too much film out there, but I think there's a happy medium. So this is not a happy medium. This is on the other extreme of that. And it's concerning. You have a very small sample size.
No, 100%. And, with him, you got to wonder how the opt out affects him. That's this one thing that Mike and I have talked about a lot off camera. Just how do you grade an opt out? Because obviously the most valuable film, whenever you're grading a prospect, is the most recent stuff. And compared to say Najee has 13 more samples just from this past year than a Kenneth Gainwell does. So what has a Gainwell been doing in the past year? Has he been sitting on his couch eating potato chips, or has he been working out and kind of see Mike's flexing because that's what he does on a daily basis. Um, but no, has he been working out every day? Has he been kind of specializing his skills? Has he been improving on some of the deficiencies? Is he faster? Is he slower? We don't really know, and that's the problem. And when you already have kind of a limited number of reps already, that's sort of concerning. The fact that he's only played in 18 games since high school, and now he's going to be in the NFL. Just kind of when you put that into perspective, it's a little bit of a red flag for sure. But on the other hand, compared to a guy who's injured, say let's say Tua for example, when he gets hurt, that when you're drafting him, you're either hoping that he's at where he was or just slightly regressed because of his injury. Well, technically, a guy like Gainwell who's opting out could go the other way, right? He could improve vastly. Maybe what he's doing in his own personal workouts is better than what Memphis was supplying. So it's tough because with these guys, you don't know which direction they're going in, and that's sort of the problem with it, if that makes sense. I know Mike's in the same boat, so with that being said, Mike, you want to get right into my grade?
Let's get it.
So with Gainwell, I think that he's one of the most extreme prospects that you could see at the running back position. He's a guy who is quick, he's fast, he can catch the ball, he can make you miss, and that's it. Like there's not going to be much pass blocking, much power. If you hit him, he's probably going down. But at the same time, it's tough to hit him. So there's kind of a give and take here with Kenneth Gainwell. I know Mike, you didn't watch as many games as I did, but are those kind of the same comparisons or kind of same observations, I guess, that you were seeing on film?
Yeah, for sure. He's very much like a utility player. You're going to have to put him in different. You're going to have to put together plays for Gainwell. He's not going to be one that He's definitely not. I guess you could make it a three down back, but he's very much a very gimmicky player. But with that kind of as you said, some of his strengths, I think some of that would come through with a little bit better vision that you might have graded there. But other than that, I think you're right. He's very much extreme in certain areas and probably very deficient in others.
Yeah, you could definitely debate the vision. I think that with him, they were playing in his own scheme, so a lot of the looks were kind of dependent on him finding the hole. So I do agree with you in that sense. I think where I graded him down a little bit was in terms of the downfield anticipation, where it's like, okay, this guy with that quickness and that agility, I just want him to get to play off of his blocks a little bit better and get more than what he actually is getting. And that's something we've talked about a lot in, say, the Javante video, where it's what are you doing compared to what we expected you to do, and that's where I think I marked Gainwell back a little bit. But otherwise, I think that he's an interesting prospect. If you're a team that needs this sort of bell cow running back, maybe Gainwell's not your guy. But when you talk about home run hitters now, Gainwell might be, if not is, one of the best in the draft. No?
Yeah, for sure. And kind of, I mentioned a couple times, once you get to open space, what can you actually do with it? I think it's sometimes a little bit, over, thought of, but also there's some people that excel at it probably a little bit more than others, and he's one of them. With the speed and acceleration, get him into open space. It's him in a corner. I'll say Gainwell, probably over, a player like Najee Harris. Um, so I totally agree with you there.
Yeah, I know it's tough because like a Najee would just put his shoulder down and try and truck through him, whereas Gainwell, that corner might not even get a good angle on him, because just that quickness and acceleration. But the problem is, again, we're going to keep revisiting it. Is if let's say last year on film he looked like a 4.38 guy, what is he now? We haven't seen him on film in now essentially 2 years between that last game and when he's going to be in the NFL. So is he a 4.5 guy now, or is he even quicker? It's just tough. It's incredibly tough. And that's why if I had to put like a confidence rating on my grade, maybe this one would be a little bit lower, right? And that's going to be the same across all the opt outs because it's tough to know just what they've been doing. But I do think that if you're a team who, especially if you're an already good team and you just need somebody that could maybe open up the offense a little bit more, I really like a guy like Kenneth Gainwell in the middle of the third round. You look at kind of what the Chiefs, let's say, tried to do last year with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think a guy like Gainwell would have been perfect in the third round. Get a lot better value in terms of what they're actually adding to the offense. And hey, that's a team that's already spaced out. Put a guy like Gainwell in there. 2-2-2 touchdown. This guy's zigging zagging through the entire defense, and now you're putting up more points. I think it's interesting, right? And that's why I'm really intrigued to see what he offers to a team, but I wouldn't be intrigued to the point where I'd rank him above Najee, if that makes sense. Which I guess we can get right into here as you see how the grades break down. But he is an interesting prospect to say the least.
Yeah, for sure. And before we kind of get into the grades, because obviously you kind of already mentioned and we both talked about it. There's intrigue. He's a raw prospect. You really don't know fully what you're going to get out of him, so it's kind of hard to come up with a comp. But do you potentially have some comps in mind?
This one's kind of funny. Being a Lions fan, maybe this one hits a little bit closer to home than others, but he reminds me a lot of Javid Best. I don't know if a lot of people remember him from a couple years back. Lions took him early second round, and he was a speed guy. He was a track star. Obviously, had his career derailed by injuries, but you could just see the minute that he stepped on the field that this man, he might not get 20 plus touches in a game, but he's going to do the most he can with those 10 to 15. And every play has the potential of being a 70, 80-yard gain just based on that speed and acceleration. So I really like a guy like Javid Best. If you look more on the receiving side of things, people could maybe say a Darren Sproles. I think that's an interesting one because he was lined up in the slot a lot. He was kind of utilized similarly to, ironically enough, his teammate Antonio Gibson, who was drafted last year by the Washington football team, where there were some questions: is he a running back or is he a receiver coming into the draft? I don't think that Gainwell's quite to that extreme, but he was utilized in the slot quite a bit. And Mike can attest to that, and that's why I like Best personally, just because that explosiveness that I don't know if Sproles necessarily had. Obviously, he was shifty, but I don't know if he has that speed necessarily that I think Gainwell possesses. Hence why I go with Best. Do you have any comps in mind, or do you think that those are two solid ones?
No, I think those are two solid ones. I'm trying to think of someone that fits that mold. Obviously, like another line would be Theo Riddick, but I think he's a better pure runner than Theo Riddick, but he's not as good as, as a pass catcher as Theo Riddick. No, there's not one that really sticks. I think the two you have are might be a little bit high. I think he's a little bit more budget than both of those individuals, but um, obviously Jahad Best is kind of a hard one to comp because short time span there. There's not a whole lot to work off of, but I like the idea. Yeah, I can't think of one off the top of my head.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely more of a play style comp than an expectations comp. If just for those who maybe this is your first video watching us here, if it is, make sure you click the link to Najee Harris's scouting report video above our heads. But no, I think that in terms of play style, you could maybe go with a Devin Singletary if we went with someone a little bit more recent. Singletary is probably a slightly better runner, maybe more balanced as a runner. I think that Gainwell is kind of, as we said multiple times, now he's more of the extreme guy, the got a home run hitter. Maybe people could go for Amir Abdullah if we're now we're just rattling off lines at this point. But it just shows how many times that they've kind of shot in the bucket and missed. But no, I think that he's an interesting prospect, no question. So with that being said, Mike, do you have anything else, or are we good here?
I think we mic'd up and now we micing out.
Peace,
Deuces.
guys.